Hello everyone, today's poem is Yong Wind, 君子偕老 by 佚名 or by anonymous. Yong, a city, a state, south to the Bay State. We have a lot of poem from the Bay State, which was so-called Bay Wind, and this is Yong Wind. Basically, Bay Wind and Yong Wind are considered as the same or a subsidiary of the Wei Wind because they are both belong to the big state or big region of the Wei state. And the main reason is these three wind or these three regions or the Wei state in general, they are the former capital area of the Yin dynasty. So they are of the same people with the same culture and with the same weather and geographic similarities. So from the poetry, we can see they share a lot of the common things, the flavor, the name of the places. So it appears in all these three wind: Bay Wind, Yong Wind, and Wei Wind. This poem is about a beauty, a queen, of the Yong state. So you can see how the ancient Chinese to describe, to praise a beauty with virtue. The title 君子偕老 means 君子 is the king of the Yong city, Yong state. 偕老 means to aging together or to die together. So this is a very, very common wish or hope for the married woman to die or to get aging together with her husband. A very, very nice and gentle wish for the ancient Chinese women. Well, the interesting part of this poem is it has so many different interpretations, and thanks to the book 诗经明悟心正, I do believe this book, this writer gives right explanations, and why there's so many arguments for all those points in the Book of Songs, because in the ancient time, the Book of Songs, a poem in the Book of Songs was almost forgotten by everyone. This phenomenon was so-called 礼崩乐坏 by Confucius. 礼崩, the code of conduct, was damaged. 乐坏, the music, was damaged as well. So the music, actually, the Book of Songs was part of the music, which means the Book of Songs was lost or damaged. For the sake of Confucius, he picked up all the things almost damaged or lost, and he tried to teach this knowledge, these literatures, to a bunch of people. It was so-called 3,000 students of Confucius. So by his effort, all these classic literatures continues to last for a while, but still almost damaged or lost again by the dynasty changes. So that today's all the literatures, all the interpretations we see today, actually it started from the Han dynasty. So it's roughly 1,000 years after the Zhou dynasty established, and roughly 300 years after the Confucius. So you can imagine so many things was lost in such long time frames. And very naturally, the people, the Han Dynasty people, they created a lot of the things unreal or just by their imaginations. So this is the root cause why there is so many arguments and explanations about the poem in the Book of Songs. So thanks for all those people in the history. They all contribute a lot of the possibilities or interpretations to decipher the poem in the Book of Songs. And also we have a lot of the new findings through the archaeology science, and which gave us a better view how the poems was about. But for sure, that's maybe wrong again. The scholars in the Han Dynasty, they interpret this poem as a blaming to the beauty, to the queen, and thus the people after follows these explanations, and thanks to the book 诗经明悟心正, I do believe this book, this writer gives the very much more precise explanations to this poem. And also we can feel this poem by itself. It's a blaming or it's a praise to the queen or to the beauty. Now let's look at the poem. 君子偕老，父笈六家。君子, the king of Yong state. 偕老, to get aging together. 父, to ramp up the hair. 笈 is the stick to use at the hairpin. So you stick the hairpin into the hair to fix up the wrapped hair. 六家 means to add up 6 jewelries. The jewelries could be jade or could be gemstones. So that make the hairpin much more beautiful and magnificent. So the first sentence is the best wishes for a queen. She would like to get aging together with the queen, and she make up her hairs with the beautiful hairpin with the shining gemstones. And the Lao could also interpret as dead. So there could be also another explanation that the best wishes for the queen is to die together with her husband, with the king. So basically, no matter it's aging together or die together, it doesn't change much about the whole poem, the meaning of the whole poem. 巍巍驼驼，如山如河，相扶适宜. Though the long line of people, it's like a zigzag, and it's just like the mountains. It's very stable, very conservative, and it's as long as the river, as the Yellow River, I should say, because He was always translated as a Yellow River. 相服适宜. 相服 is the most formal clothes only for the big ceremonies, for the sacrifice ceremonies, most formal clothes. So this 相服, the sacrifice clothing, is so appropriate. 适宜 means it's appropriate. So the second sentence is the status of a long troop of people was doing something, a big ceremony, sort of the big ceremony. And there's the normal explanation for the second sentence is to describe the queen, the beauty. So if we adopt this saying, 唯唯托托 means the gesture of the beauty of the queen, just like the catwalk. And she looks very conservative, like the mountain, very stable, and her feeling is like the river, very long, man side. 相服是一首 she wears the most decent, most magnificent clothing only for the big ceremonies. So the key point of this poem comes in the third sentence. 子之不淑，云如之何？子 refers to the queen, to the beauty. 不淑 could be interpreted in two ways. So the normal interpretation for 不淑, it says the queen is a bad woman. She doesn't follow the morals, doesn't follow the rules or the social rules. And normally it means she has a lot of the love affair with other people other than the king. 云如之何? So how can we, or how can she deal with it? Because she was the queen. She should go with the king only, not with other person, with other boy or man. So that's also the story by the scholars of the Han. They even gave the very dedicated name for this poem, for this queen. And normally today we don't think the story or the name was appropriate. It's just all by the imagination of the scholars in the Han Dynasty. And the book I mentioned times, 诗经名物新政. So she gave the explanation for the third sentence. This is a very, very key sentence in this poem. 不淑 means misfortune, unlucky. So with this difference, the whole poem changes. Because the third sentence means this queen is such an unlucky queen. She got such a huge misfortunes. How could she deal with it? So all the things is about the huge misfortunes. Let's continue to read the rest of the poem and to see which explanation is more appropriate. The second and third paragraph is all about the beauty. How is her outlook? How is her clothing and decorations? The second paragraph. 此兮此兮，其之敌也。此兮此兮, it means the status is shining white and lovely like the jade. So what thing is so shining white? 其之敌也. Di is the feather, the beautiful feather of the bird. Normally it's from the zhi. The term is zhi. It's a very colorful, big, wild bird. But here it very precisely tells us the feathers decorated on her clothes is shining white. 枕发如云，不谢敌也. Her black hair was so beautiful like clouds. There's not a bit wig on her head. 枕 black, 发 the black hair. So this is a very normal, frequent words today. 美女如云. So it used the hair to describe the beauties. Her hair just like the clouds. And from this sentence, we also know the ancient Chinese women have wig in that time. But this queen and this beauty was so outstanding. She don't use wig, and her hair looks the most beautiful and magnificent. 欲知田也，象之蹄也，阳且之息也。田 is the jewelry on the air, through the air. We have that in the Bay Wind, 毛秋, and that's the same thing. Could be the jade or could be made of the bone to stick through the hair. That's the decoration. 象之蹄也, the 蹄 is another decoration for the women. It's a little bit like the comb. It can be used to comb the hair, but it was sticked on the hair as well. So it makes the hair wrapped up and fixed. And so here it describes how the outlook of the queen. She wears the tian, the jade on her ears, and she comb her hair very nicely, neatly with tea. 阳且之息也. Yang described that her hair was neatly ramped up and combed, hairpinned to make it raise upward. So this led her forehead to be quite wide and open and shining. So this gave us a very gentle, very elegant sense with a royal outlook. 息, white skin. So that's a must to have for a Chinese beauty. The three sentences, it describe the white feather on her clothes, and her hair was so black and so beauty and so dense, and she never used the wig. And she wears the jade, she wears all the decorations on her hair, and she was so white. Her face was so white and was lovely with spirits. 忽然而天也，忽然而地也. So the normal translation is 忽然 is why she look that. 然 is the status or outlook. 忽 is why and how. So the normal translation is, so how does this crane looks like the person from the sky, and how does this crane looks like emperor. D is the emperor actually. So basically I think this is not a good interpretation. So I would interpret it, why does the crane look up to the skies, and why does the crane look down to the earth? Though the D means two things. One refers to the king, and one refers to the earth. They share the same pronunciation in Mandarin. Now the third paragraph. 撮兮撮兮，其之斩也. Zhan is her clothing, and I think this describes her out clothes. 撮兮, it means her clothes is shining white like the jade. So jade is always white, or the best jade is white. So the first sentence in the third paragraph means her clothes is shining white. 比蒙昼吃，是谢盼也。Her clothes was covered by the fine and rugged fabric made of kazoo wines. 吃 is the fabric, the textile made of kazoo wine, and is the most fine fabric made of that kazoo wine. And normally it was used in the summertime. It's very thin and fine fabric. 皱 means rugged. 是谢盼也. 谢盼 normally was refers or interpreted as the underwears. So here is something not right. So this sentence means her clothes was covered by the kazoo wine fine fabric, and that's her underwear. So that's something wrong. Do you feel that? Okay, let's continue first. 子子清扬，阳且之言也。The queen was with such a clear and crystal eyes, and her outlook, her face looks white and bright. 阳且之言也. So it not only white, bright, but it has the colors. So it all describing the face, the outlook of the queen. So it has the very, very clear crystal eyes, has the face was white and shining. 展如之人兮，邦之远也。展 her clothing is just like herself, and she was the queen. She was the woman of the whole state. Yuan means beauty, a beautiful woman. Bang is the state. So finally, in today's language, we also use the term 国色 to describe a beauty, which means this beauty is on the top of this country, or her beauty is of the top in the state. So how is her clothing? With the white feather, covered with 昼吃, the white, very fine and thin fabric made of the kazoo wine, and we also shining with the jade on her ear, with all the decorations on her beautiful thick dense hair. So that's all about her clothes and outlook. So from the second and the third paragraph, we can feel very easily it's all about praising the queen, her beauty, her outlook, her clothing, her decorations. So just imagine in today's life, let's say in some of the royal countries, they have queen, they have queen, they have princess, and we always like to praise those who looks beautiful and with virtues, but when we praise them, it's hard for us to praise or appreciate their virtues. We always praise her face, her clothing, her decorations. But anyhow, all in all, it's the reflection of the inner mind that we liked to praise that beautiful princess, that beautiful queen, and we do think she was with the very good virtue for sure. So in this sense, this poem doesn't mean blaming to the queen, to this beauty as well. And one more thing, when we review the whole poem, the most important part is to describing her outlook and her clothings. Of course, her outlook is great and beautiful, but her clothing is all shining white. So that reminds me one thing, that for the funerals, the dressing code is all white and with the kazoo wine fabric covered on the body, on the head. So let's review this poem again. It's all about white clothes. And finally, the poet point out she was covered with the kazoo wine fabric, white kazoo wine fabric. So that's a funeral. And then let's review the first paragraph again. 君子偕老，父姬六家. So this doesn't change too much. It's the best wishes or hope for the queen to get aging together with the king. It's the fortune for not only for her, it's the fortune for the whole state. And this could also be the wishes, best wishes by the people of the state. 君子偕老. The king and the queen get aging or die together in a good way. And then 巍巍驼驼，如山如河，相扶适宜. This makes sense. So it's a funeral, and the people was so many, and the long troops of the people in the funeral was in such a long way. It's like zigzag, and the emotion and the outlook of all the people, not only the queen, the beauty, they are very conservative. They are so sad, like the mountain, and their sad feeling lasts like the river. So remember, whenever I saw the rivers, a lot of the time, maybe 80% of the time, the river will resemble the feelings. And here, the feeling was the sad feelings because they lost their king. And the xiangfu, the most decent, the most magnificent clothing, is appropriate. So that means either it's the king ascend to his throne or the king died. So in this case, the king died because the following sentence said, 子之不淑, how misfortune this queen was. Because from the following paragraph, we can see the queen was in her best age. She looks so great, so beautiful. But that contrast the utmost misfortune of this beauty, of this queen. And in turn, it also reflects the misfortune for the whole state as well, because the king and the queen always resemble the fortunes of the whole state. So, 云如之何, how can the queen deal with these misfortunes, this not only the sadness, this is a huge misfortunes, and how the people in the Yong state deal with it. So that's not only the huge sadness, it's the doubt for their fortunes in the futures. How would it like to be? So in this way, everything makes the sense, and every sentence can support each other, make sense as well. Compared to other poem in the Book of Songs, when describing the kings, the queens, or beauty, there are always a lot of the colorful things, either the clothing, the decorations, or other things. So it's a lot of the colors, but when we review this poem, everything is white, shining white, but the black hair of the queen. So that's also something quite special and different, and it implies it's a funeral. To interpret the whole poem as a describe to the funeral to the king is my personal opinion. But for now, more and more people like to think this poem is not a blaming to this beauty, but rather to feel more sympathy to her misfortunes. And this poem very obviously show us she was a queen, lost the king, lost her husband. Okay, that's for today, and I wish you enjoy it. Bye bye.